Welcome to the FarmBits podcast.
FarmBits is proudly produced by the Nebraska Digital Agriculture team and hosted by the students at the University of Nebraska.
The FarmBits podcast comes to each week to discuss the trends, the realities, and the value of digital agriculture.
Through interviews with experts, producers, and innovators from across the agricultural industry, we hope that you step away from each episode with a new practical knowledge of digital agriculture technology. Hello, FarmBits followers, and welcome to another episode of the FarmBits podcast. I'm Katie Bathke.
And I'm Natasha, and we are glad to have you with us as we begin our discussion on research management in specialty cropping systems.
Today, Mia Luong, a second-year PhD candidate, has joined the podcast to give insight on her research experiences in a variety of specialty crops.
So my name is Mia Luong. I'm originally from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. So my Vietnamese name is Luong Trần Kim Ngân. We do like last name first and first name last. So it's kind of like a widening path. My first degree was in economics. After I finished high school in Vietnam, then I went to Australia to study economics, and then I came back to Vietnam. At that time, there was a lot of concern about pesticide residue in food. And my dad was an oncologist. And then there was some statistic like very high percentage of cancer is resolved from pesticide residue in food, at least on Vietnamese newspaper anyway. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, let's start to grow some food. So it's probably like 7 years ago. It's the first time I ever grow anything. And then I started growing it, and then obviously I don't know a lot of things. So then I was like, I want to know more. I did have like a tiny business where I sell vegetable to people. So we grow it in our sort of like backyard garden, and then we harvest it overnight and then ship it directly to people's house. And so it's just like, this is really interesting and really fun, so I want to take it seriously. So I decided to come here to study for horticulture. And I think during my second semester of my first year, I took a class with Sam Watchman, and then he had, like the research team. So that's the first time my first summer doing research, and I just kind of fell in love with it ever since. So then I finished my undergrad in 2019. So I came here in August 2017. Finished my master. Finished my bachelor December 2019, and then January 2020 I started my master, and I just finished my master last May, and then now I'm on my second year of my PhD.
It's a really nice background.
Yes,
you have a lot of experience.
Yes. I don't know about that. It's just like all over the place, but it's good. It's fun.
Yeah,
it's fun
for sure. And Mia, would you mind to give a brief description of your research about climate smart specialty crop production system?
Yes. So my kind of main research project right now is working on like different bio-based products or strategy in terms of dealing with drought stress. So we tested on carrots and strawberry. So basically we have one with irrigation and the other one to kind of rain fed. And then we test mycorrhiza fungi or bio-based mulch and compost to see, if it kind of help reduce some of the impact of water stress or kind of lacking of water in general.
Okay.
So that's one of the project. There's like other project that we do as a team. It would be, like we grow different type of strawberry. We also test different type of biomulch in our lab.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you could just elaborate a little bit more on what kind of cropping systems is your current research in?
Yes, so we focus on more like, local, our research targeted to give information for more like local small farm organic system. So then we grow pepper, we grow lettuce, we currently have a lot of strawberry in our field. But generally roughly around that, what could help our local farmer can grow better, what could we use in organic system, and try to make it sustainable, try to reduce input, try to make it easier for the farmer if we can.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that is true. Well, you already mentioned, right, one of the importance of your research. But can you tell us a little bit more about other importance of your research?
Yeah, so like I said, we focus on, local farmer. So then it's mostly local food production. And when you think about it, you can support, the local economy. You have slightly, better nutritional food because the food doesn't have to travel a long way, doesn't have to stay in storage for a while. Usually it's freshly picked probably within 24 hours when you buy it. And then you can also eat more seasonally. So I think that's good. And when you support that, then it also help diversify the landscape because most of this farm, they don't grow just one crop, they grow like multiple things. And they try to incorporate a lot of practice into their farming as well. So I think that's why it's important. Also, I just love food.
Yes, I could agree. What motivated you to conduct research focusing on climate smart specialty crop production?
Yeah. Well, I think it's like climate change can really be felt now, right? Like every day, especially in summer and winter, we feel that a lot higher extreme, a lot more weather variability, right? And then there's more drought and all that stuff. So it's a broad thing. But at least what I do is focusing on water use efficiency, maybe reduce water input, or if you encounter drought, then what could you do? Because I think I read it on the Food and Agriculture website that like 70% of global fresh water is used for agriculture. So that's a lot. And if at the start of this project, I watched so many documentary on drought issue, and it's like, I feel like there's nothing I could do on this thing. But like little thing also matter. So if we could reduce, even just reduce input, that would be good. So I think that's just like the motivation on how to sort of have a better ways to use our resources.
Yes. And can you go a little bit into, you talk about the biomulch and the mycorrhizal fungi. Can you kind of explain how that helps this climate smart and how that works with the water stress?
Yes. So when you put any type of mulch basically on the ground, compared to the bare soil, it's already helping with water retention or evaporation. If it's too sunny, then obviously water evaporate really quickly. So then if you have that layer, it's gotta help with the moisture retention. The mycorrhizal fungi is kind of the interesting thing because there's not much research of it in the field yet, but in the more like greenhouse setting, they kind of act as an extra roots for the plant. So they have like a symbiotic relationship with the plant, and then the plant trade with the fungi. So the fungi would go and scour water and other nutrition in the soil, and that's kind of how they work. So we're just kind of hoping to see if some of that interaction could help.
Awesome. I love that.
This is really cool. So Mia, you have mentioned about that you focus in local growers, right?
Yes.
And your lab, or you have seen some acceptance from local growers to use different technologies or different management to grow specialty crops here?
We do work with some farm like around here, and then we also have, I forgot what it's like the community garden program.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
we did some of that to our prairie pie. Prairie pie.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then we kind of introduce either like the experienced farmer or the new farmer, like, okay, this is what we got, would you like to try, and then see how they like it. One of other research that involved um basically citizen scientists that we currently have going on is the Nebraska Soil Health Initiative. So people would sign up for the program, and we collect. Well, they send us their soil sample, and we also, depends on what they sign up for. We send them cover crop and geotextile and biochar and compost, so they can apply different treatment and then see how that affect their own garden. So I think it's like slightly different scale that we're applying our research. Yeah.
I think that's so important too, because, like when you think about specialty food cropping systems, especially at a local level in the state of Nebraska, like a lot of
Right.
it's going to be your gardeners and kind
Yes.
of even like some of your more local produce and things. So I think that's really interesting that you're working at that scale. I like that.
Yes.
Yes. The next question is, how do you incorporate digital ag into your research?
Okay, so this is interesting because when I talked to some of my lab mates, and then people were, okay, I want to ask you guys, what do you define as digital agriculture? Because a lot of time when people think of it, it's about like big fancy drone and GIS and like very big data, that kind of deal.
I think, to me, digital ag is I think it's about anything that can help you learn more about the system you're working in. I think it goes as much to say as moisture sensors, anything that can relate back to soil health, anything that can relate to plant health. We've had people on here that just talk about different apps that can be used for different farmers. So I think it's anything that can really help you understand more about the system you're working in.
Yeah. And I think it's technology that helps growers to have the data or the inputs quick, right?
Right.
Well.
Yeah. So I mean, for our lab, we have a drone to collect plant canopy, and then we use the website called Canopio to analyze. I think it's mostly pixels to see how much green you have.
Yes, I've used it before. Yes.
And then we use Hobo for soil temperature, and then we have watermark for like soil moisture. We also use SPAD so it's sort of like a clip-on device. You clip it on the leaves, and then it measure the chlorophyll. We also have Samara conductant machine. So when the plant is stressed, or especially water stress, sometimes it will like make a different effect on the stomata conductant if they respirate more or less, and all that stuff. So we also have TDR as also another device for soil moisture. Yep.
Well, you use a lot of technology there.
Yeah, you use a lot of technology to look at a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I like that though. I like that.
Well, we try.
Yes,
It's really diversity there. So Mia, well, since you did your master's degree in entomology and you work with wheat, right?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about, so since you have this experience working with wheat crop and now you have this experience working with specialty crops, can you tell us a little bit about this difference and what do you like it most from each one?
Okay. Yeah. Well, they definitely very different from each other. I think because of the research that I do itself. So for my master is more like lab oriented, where this specialty crop right now I'm doing is more field oriented. So for the wheat study, I was looking at plant defense and I guess insect, and then we look at different genes and all that. So as I would say, it's more focused on the plant itself, Where right now with the specialty crop, we focus on like, oh, if we put this on the plant or the surrounding, if we use grow cover, if we use mulch. So it's more on the environment around the plant. And that's, I feel lucky that I got to experience both because now it's making more complicated in my head, but at least I know a bit more. And like wheat is more sort of monoculture. So the focus on what people want to do with like the desirable trait for the plant is slightly different than specialty crops sometimes. So that's kind of what I like most about each one. I think I already kind of mentioned it. It just gives me different point of view. But with specialty crop, you got to bring food home at the end of the field season or every harvesting day. Yeah.
Yeah, in entomology department, sometimes we have some watermelons and
Yes,
strawberries.
we're gonna have more for you. But I mean, with the wheat, then it's a different type of technology, right? Sometimes I feel amazed at like, oh, how you can just like a tiny piece of plant and then you put it in a machine and the machine do its things, and then it tell you so much information. So that's kind of cool too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. I love that. I love that you've worked in both systems and you do get a different point of view. So I really like that you brought that on with us today. What is the most challenging part of conducting research in specialty cropping systems?
So like on the more like practical everyday thing, it's like it's kind of labor intense. What we do in the field, we try to be organic, because we want to help the farmer like, oh, this is potential resources that you can use. So one of the thing is we have to deal with a lot of weeds. And you grow specialty crop here, then the growing time frame is kind of short. So when the weather is, you're not worried about frost anymore, then you have to get everything on the ground at the same time. And it's a lot of everything going on as once. But on the sort of being a researcher kind of side, then with specialty crop system, people grow multiple crop. So it's hard to go deep into just one type of things, and there's a lot of changing things. So sometimes as researcher, we know a bit, but we don't know very in depth compared to if like my previous experience with studying wheat, then I can read about it more intensely. But with specialty crop farm, you have pepper, lettuce, broccoli, or everything and anything. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I imagine how difficult it is because I just work with soybean, and even though it's difficult to really go deeper about this, and now you, as you mentioned, you have a diversity of plants to study and understand. So it's a big challenge, but you learn a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is there any gap for improvement in current specialty crop production, which the use of sensors or digital tools could help? And if that is, so what type of technologies could be?
So, but at least with my experience in the field, we do have I think we have a lot of technology right now. I mean, there's always need more, but we have a lot of technology on precision agriculture, like how to save resources, how to increase yield, how to observe the like the crop grow. But one of the other thing is when you with specialty crop thing get the shelf life is not that long, and it's get bad pretty fast. So anything on the harvesting and weeding and even after harvesting, like how do you store them, how do you sort them, how do you process them, and even if in storage when you like strawberry, let's say is one variety is June bearing, so it's just get a lot of fruit in June, and if it not got sold right away or if you run out of storage for it, then they just gone bad. There's a lot of food waste. So if technology can help with that part, I think that would be good. And also with I think another thing is marketing sometimes. Like you grow a lot of food, but you can't sell it right away, then they all go bad. And at least what I know in Vietnam is people really care about the tracing of where the food came from. So I think in like the future, if there's some sort of information that can let the customer know, like, okay, we have it today, and like in an easier way, that would help both the farmer and us as food buyer to be good. So that's kind of my thought. It's like not maybe less on a little bit less on increasing yield, but more on taking advantage of what we could harvest already.
I think that's a great perspective, because we do talk about food traceability and I think it's become more of a knowledge sense in just consumers as well, of we kind of want to know where it comes from. We want to know some of those things. So I think that's definitely one market that would be awesome for digital ag to really break open of, can we make this more traceable for growers, consumers, as well as the people who are marketing it? Because we do have a lot of food waste, and it's, at the end of the day, it is kind of sad, because not every, like, we're fortunate to have that here, but it's not always like that in other places. And so I think when there are limitations sometimes, that like you have to solve those problems. And I think that's definitely one that should be addressed. I like that you bring that up. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I did. I remember I heard about one farm in Vietnam that they have very interesting model. Mm-hmm. So they basically set up camera in like the plot. So if you as a consumer really care about how your crop grows specifically, you can kind of rent or hide them, like rent that plot, and you can observe how things grow and specify what you want to be done on that thing. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, that would be good, because whatever you grow from there can be directly to that consumer too.
Yeah, and I like it as well that you brought this perspective, because when we talk about like food, we sometimes just think about the production.
Right.
But after post-harvest is also important, especially for specialty crops, because it's something more delicate, I think, the process.
Yep. Absolutely. And then, so we talked a little bit about your bio-based management tools in specialty crops. Do you have anything else you would like to elaborate on that? Anything else you'd like to go deeper in?
So I kind of want to like clarify the bio-based definition sometimes. So sometimes is even for me at first I thought bio-based is like the most natural form kind of thing, but bio-based is more like a product that got a substance or substances derived from living matter, and then it's either used naturally or it have to be synthesized. And I mean, there's a lot more of it, and we are doing more research on them. So I think that's very exciting to have more of that. But yeah, I don't know. I just want to clarify that, because let's say in entomology we have bio-based tool, so it could be like bio-insecticide or bio-pesticide using, it could be like a virus or a fungal, but you spray and then it's kill the pest. But then biocontrol is a very different thing, right? You raise the natural enemies. And I think that kind of my input, because I was confused about them at first too.
Yeah, but it's good to clarify those things, especially for us that is not from this field. So it's good to know. Yeah, and still talk a little bit more about bio-based, but now about biomulch. So I googled this and I saw it's like how can I say, a plastic or something that you cover, right?
Right.
And so this, you can you tell us how this could help to reduce the labor work, especially for weeding? I think this can help.
So I mean, you cover the bare soil, so it's less change. Like you just basically eliminate the light and maybe some of the water so that the wheat seed doesn't germinate. So it's kind of like that. For biomulch, they're also, either biodegradable or compostable. I think the other thing that it helps is not just the labor from, weeding, but also the labor at the end of the field season. It does, I feel like it does definitely increase a little bit more on, labor at the beginning of the field season, where you have to lay that out, and some of these is a little bit more fragile compared to the normal plastic. But but you're reducing the plastic use in the whole, life cycle of the production, because we use so much plastic in our agriculture production too. So then if it's compostable, then you can bring it to like a compost facility, and then you make it back into a compost that you can use. And if it's biodegradable, then the idea is that you can just mow it back into the soil at the end of your season, instead of tear the plastic out, bring it to the landfill, and it takes like, I don't know, like 300 years for them to degrade. And even the byproducts, I think some papers said, the byproduct after they degrade is also kind of toxic, to maybe the soil and even us. So I think that's like the more important thing is but the direct effect is definitely less weeding.
No, but sorry.
Yeah.
No, but it's nice that you brought this more sustainable way,
Right.
producing using this.
Yes, I like that we highlight that on here, because I didn't even think of the plastic that you lay down before you lay traditional mulch, and I think I've mulched so many gardens with my mom, so I didn't even think of that. But I think that's really interesting, and I don't know, have you seen good things like come out of some of the research? Like, what have you seen from it?
Yeah, well, a lot of these more is kind of still in development.
Okay.
But it's definitely kind of at least equally effective at the plastic mulch, so it's very hopeful. It does reduce the weed. I mean, we still kind of seeing, but yeah, I mean, we reduce weeding time, and then just water the retention. It's just overall etching mulching effect. Yeah, but we also have one of the interesting biomulch that we're testing with high density crops. So we doing carrot and lettuce. A lot of time you spread the seed out just on the soil, right? And then there's a lot of weed between them. So if you use this more, and the carrots, they can penetrate through this more, it would reduce so much weeding time, instead of you have to like look between the carrots and eliminate the weed.
Yeah. This is really great idea, because if you could eliminate weeds with more of a natural approach, then you're reducing any chemical pesticides that have to be put in, because a lot of your organic specialty cropping systems are very limited, if not using any of those sorts of things. So I think I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Right.
It's really interesting, this interview, because your research is really nice.
Thank you.
Yes.
So how do you think your current research could help specialty crop producers locally and also globally?
Yeah, I think our agriculture research as a whole always have that, right? Like, we want to improve it and make the life of the farmer easier. And now we definitely focus on being more sustainable, more mindful about how we use our resource. And we definitely care about, one of the things that I think about is, care about health in general. The way that we approach it in a more organic way or sustainable way is like, first is as human health. And if we don't spray a lot of things, then yes, it would help with our health. And then, but it also help with the soil health, the microorganism health, and the above the ground insects health and pollinator health and all that stuff. So it's hard to, document everything and like quantify everything, but I think it definitely help what locally, because we're doing it right now in Nebraska. We know we're testing it in our climate, how the weather extreme could affect it, because what I learned, especially where I come from in Vietnam, is that here we have winter, and when you have winter and when you not have winter, it's a very different thing on how you approach farming. So yeah, I mean, I think that's just what we try to do anyway. I think it would apply at least locally. I'm pretty sure, and globally, I think we kind of just pushing a little bit of information, and hopefully contributed to a bigger picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
no.
sure.
I love that you bring that up, because it really, you're bringing in all aspects, like all environmental aspects about the plant system. And I think that's really unique. I really like that. Yeah. I really like that.
Thank you.
So the next question is a little bit more of a futuristic look. And what are you most looking forward to in the future of integrating some of these digital tools in especially cropping production systems?
Yes. So I think I'll just stick to my theme, just to like improve sustainability of our farming. So I would say there's like a few different things that I would looking forward to, at least in specialty crop. Is one of the first thing is more accessible. Like a lot of tool that we use as researcher, it could be really outreach for people or even smaller scale. Or sometimes I think about like people in Vietnam, in developing country, that probably could not afford some of the tool that we have. So that would be good, and then we can fine tune the management side. That'd be great, and help with marketing the products, and have the food to come to the consumer, like faster and less waste. I would really want to see that, and that also conserve resources instead of like water use. Even labor is a resource, right? And then obviously the food that we already grow, but if all harvested, but we can use it, that'd be something, right? And overall it would just make life of the farmer easier. Yeah.
I know that is cool. And well, Mia, it was really nice to know more about your research, and all the insights that you brought in this interview was really, really cool. So is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners that you think is important? Or
well, I was like, I'm not really sure, but I'll use this part for my own benefit. Like if anyone doing specialty crop or growing stuff out there, if you have any interesting aspect, like reach out to me, because I want to know more. But this is come from a student perspective. Sometimes you spend a lot of time with reading papers and stuff, but without actually knowing, sometimes what the challenges of the farmer is. I think that is a challenge that I encounter with, and I really want to hear more from other people. Yeah.
No, I love that. I think a lot of what we do on FarmBits is trying to, one, communicate research, communicate technology, communicate any sort of information we can to growers, to farmers, to the general public, really.
Yes.
So I like that perspective, because especially as a student, and I don't come from a farming background, so I'm always like, please tell me what is your challenge? What can we do to actually create adoption?
Yes.
And what do you need? So I really like that.
Yep.
And then our last question for the interview is that it's a tradition on the FarmBits podcast to ask for a piece of advice. What advice do you have for anyone interested into getting into specialty crop research?
Yes. So, just with my experience, this is an advice that I would like to myself to do more too, is just reach out to people. Like if you read something interesting or you watch a video on YouTube and you're like, oh, that's so cool, I want to know more. I think sometimes we're just kind of afraid to like, oh, I don't want to bother people. But you just reach out to people, try an internship, or even just grow something at home and then just observe it every day. That is kind of how you learn, like grow some lettuce, grow some tomato on a balcony and observe them. I think just kind of stay curious, and then I mean, there's always a lot of paper to read. I think, like from a student perspective, I think that would be what I would give to. This is the type of research that you only know by doing, right? So I think the best way is just pick up an internship somewhere, and then see how you feel about it, what click for you, because there's so many aspects of this system that you can discover.
Can you tell us what other insights you've learned from working in specialty cropping systems versus working in more of versus working in more of like a wheat system that you talked about before?
Yeah. So I think with specialty crop, there's like with wheat, sometimes we try to do, we will increase 5% yield and all that. But with specialty crops, sometimes increasing yield doesn't necessarily equal increasing in, like income or economic value, because with specialty crop, there's a lot more into it. Like the appearance of the fruit, how it tastes and all that. Is very important, and eventually would it reach consumer hand, because you can't store it for too long and all that. So sometimes, if you, like for us, we have so many in the field and we can't harvest it right away, and then it's just rot in the field and it's just not good, and you don't get that. But also a lot of time we intellectually aware, like if something look a little bit odd, it still tastes fine. But when we go to the supermarket, we only want to pick the most perfect looking, produce, and that is another challenge, that if as a researcher we only focus on increasing yield, then it could not be. And one of the thing is, I have kind of grow a lot more interest in strawberry. And there's a bug called Lygus lineolaris. It's a thornless plant bug, and when it feeds on the strawberry green fruit, it will malform, and it's create like a very seedy tips. So it's called cat facing a button fruit. And because my background with wheat, then I like, oh, it is a resistant strawberry. And there was some research on it, but the strawberry wasn't taste the most appealing to humans, so it's kind of like out of the window. So sometimes I think it's important to know what, like the buyer wants, and then the farmer need to cater to the buyer, and then that's what we need to focus on. And I think, instead of increase 5% yield in the field, reduce 5% loss after harvesting would be a good, even a better strategy. Yeah.
Thank you very much to Mia for taking the time to join this episode of the FarmBits podcast. It's really exciting to hear her perspectives on row crop and specialty cropping systems. I would say my favorite part was how she encompassed the entire cropping system as a whole, from plant to pest to sustainability.
I also think it was nice, but one of my favorite parts of this episode was when she brought some insights about the difference between row crop and specialty cropping system post-harvest. I hope you enjoyed that episode, and we are looking forward to sharing another digital ag story with you next week on FarmBits. Thank you for taking the time to join us today on the FarmBits podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or whenever you listen to podcasts to be informed about the latest content each week.
We welcome your feedback, so if you have comments or questions for us, please reach out to us over email, on Twitter, or in the review section of your favorite podcast platform. Our contact information can be found in the show notes.
We would like to thank you, Nebraska Extension, for their support of this podcast and their commitment to providing high-quality informational material to members of the agricultural community in Nebraska and beyond.
The opinions expressed by the host and guest on this podcast are solely their own and do not reflect the views of Nebraska Extension or the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
We look forward to you joining us next week for another episode of FarmBits.